does. I mean, so in comparison to Midas, yeah, the difficulty going down, and we've seen that kind of pattern before in Binding Coil of Bahamut as well. You know, I would say that arguably the most difficult portion of that raid was T9. Still people struggle on T9 like they don't struggle with the rest of that raid.
Yeah, but it's just because, like, in T9, like, a lot of the mechanics are just instant kill.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you can't outgear 30,000 damage.
Right. And so, I mean, while it does sort of fit the pattern a little bit, I wonder what the idea there is, like what the philosophy there is. You know? Like, why is that beneficial? Why does that help your raiding community? Does it even? I don't think that it does.
Like, I think what's the secret behind that? If there even is one.
It seems very haphazard.
There's this one dude on the Square Enix development team who's never beat 9 because he thinks it's too hard. So they just make 9 everything in the game too hard to spite him.
It just seems a little weird to have this difficulty curve where it goes, you know, like it spikes in the middle and then goes back down. Mm-hmm. I would be curious to know what people's feelings on this versus even Gordius was. Because if Gordius is the hardest part of Alexander, you know, like I feel like a lot of people got stymied on A4.
Well, definitely. But, I mean, they said straight up then, like, well, okay, guys, we went too far on Gordius, and they said the other ones wouldn't be as hard.
Right.
But I thought Midas was a decent, like, change. I mean, Midas was easier than Gordius, but it was not easy by any means. This seems like it's just easy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm a little disappointed. Like, I'm just a little nervous that it's not going to hold us out until the next patch. Like, I mean, I feel like the really hardcore groups beat A8 Savage. My group never got through 7. A lot of groups were still progressing on 7 or 8 when this next patch hit, which means they had content to do the entire patch. If we're clearing A12 by, you know, within the month, what am I going to do for the rest of the patch cycle?
Farm.
But
Wondrous Tales.
Boring.
Wondrous Tale.
I don't know. I mean, it's just nice to have a goal that's going to keep me working through the entire patch.
Yeah, if you didn't have your raid static, what do you and I'm not saying, you know, you guys broke up or something, but like let's say you guys
had to take Escalia.
Let's say you guys completed the content and you guys got all the rewards that you wanted out of it. What would keep you logging into FF14?
It's hard to say because I can tell you the last 2 or 3 weeks before the patch, I only logged on to raid. So, I mean, I didn't even even though I'm still like 4 Umbrite from my relic, I didn't even log in to do my roulettes just because I didn't feel like it. So I feel like at least it got me to log in every week because I still had that goal to work for. If we're done with this in a month, I mean, that's kind of lame.
Don't worry, Yoshi told you what to do. Go play something else.
I think Nika's going to be okay because she always has her progression AFK and Gold Saucer to do.
That's true.
So, well, I mean, I feel like the consensus on Midas was that it took it in a good direction.
Yeah.
They backed off on some of the elements that inflated the difficulty of Gordius artificially, and you know, really concentrated on mechanic heavy fights that were fun for people to do.
Yes.
And that was the I mean that was the, I wouldn't say the consensus, but that was the general overall sentiment that I had seen go around. And I'm just kind of curious why Square Enix would think that taking the difficulty and backing off even more is the good play there, when they had already been receiving very, you know, positive compliments about the system that they added just 2 patches ago.
I think that you're the one that hit on it, Annie. I think the idea that since we're at the end, this is going to be the patch piece of raid content that lasts the longest, that this is the best chance for more people to get involved with it. Then going into 4.0, I think they can maybe push more people into at least attempting.
If they step it back up to a Midas level in 4.0, people who have now gotten raiding experience here will be ready for that.
So what are you saying that Square Enix has to concentrate on bringing more people into the raiding scene as opposed to engaging the people that were already there.
My problem is that I think that they definitely did need to bring more people in, because after some of the last, especially with Gordius, there are people who didn't even try Midas because they were raiders and they fell out.
And
so I
that's-
definitely think concentrating on bringing people in is what they need to do. However, I don't think that needs to be their only focus. I feel like this level of rating that exists, that people are clearing within the first month, needs to exist. It does. But there also needs to exist something super challenging for the hardcore raiders that want a goal for the entire patch. And for right now, it seems like their mind is it must be either or. It can't be both, and that's bothering me.
That does suck, but I also think, Nika, that all these hardcore people, I don't think that, like, yeah, after they clear in, farm it for a month or two or whatever, and they stop, they're still going to be back when 4.0 comes out and the rating comes out, right? Like, those people, they're raiders for life. This is the type of content that they live for, is the rating. Do they want it more difficult? Absolutely. But I don't think that they're going to quit and move on, whereas the casual people who they've slowly been losing over this entire expansion, I think if you don't get them back, they're going to be they're gone.
I agree, which is why I do think that this easier level of rating needs to exist. Like, I'm glad that it does. I just think that they're now forgetting about the fact that, like, World of Warcraft has 7 different difficulties or whatever, and it works well, and that people love that, and that here it's like, no, we're going to have one or nothing. It's going to be super hard or super easy and nothing in between.
You're not wrong.
And that's sort of
bothers me.
That's sort of the point that I was sort of like making my way back around to, is that, we have constantly been advocates of, don't dumb down the difficulty, keep things hard, keep them challenging. But I think, like, when we advocate for that position, it's rarely through the lens of rating. It's rarely through the lens of this extreme content that exists. It's I don't think any of us have ever advocated make EXs harder. Like, none of us have ever said that. But the general content that we all interact with on a daily basis, I think that could see a difficulty increase to just challenge your community a little bit more and make those encounters a little bit more engaging. We're going to talk about the dungeons here in just a second, but I think that is an aspect of the game where the degree of difficulty has been a complete write-off now for about a year and a half, and there are areas where they could inject more difficulty, and that's one of them. It doesn't. People conflate and misunderstand the whole idea of get good that we had laid out, and why we were advocating specifically for them not to turn down Steps of Faith, or not to tune down some of these easier confrontations that all of the community ubiquitously need to confront. Because when you have these big fights that most everyone needs to do to be able to progress, that act as gates, then that challenges your community and forces them to rise to the occasion. And all of those people who bellyache that they can't get through it are, and I know that I'm generalizing here, but they're generally one of two things. They're either so bad at the game that they're what we had termed one of the unhelpables, or
Just be nice to Ascalia. You're going really hard.
or they just are one of these complainers that try something 3 times, and after having a party that disbands, the first thing that they do is they go complain on the fucking forums. This and the point of saying that is that the complaints are generally not an accurate representation of what the majority of your community is experiencing. Okay, so knowing that, I think that's why we, when we say get good, or when we advocate for harder content, that's where we're advocating for it. And when it comes to very challenging content, I think that, this is probably a step in the right direction, because you're right. This will get people back into raiding because they're not so intimidated by having to meet strict DPS checks and all of these other different things that we've worked ourselves into. So yeah, I think in the end that this is the best move for Square Enix to do, given the situation of hemorrhaging players from their end game and needing to bring some of those people back into the fold.
And getting enough people back once they, re-legitimize its popularity, that's when they need to start looking at their reward system.
No, 4.0 period is when they need to start looking at the reward system, because that brings me to the other point that I was going to make, is that yes, World of Warcraft has 7 difficulties for various things that you can do in their game, but they also reward those difficulties properly, and it's not just an arbitrary title that you end up getting out of it. That was the biggest problem with Savage Coil 5 to 9, was that it just gave you a title and nothing else, and people saw that and were like, there's no fucking reason
They weren't
to do
even
that.
good titles.
No, they weren't.
Ugh.
The Dominatrix?
The Avatar.
The
That-
Raper?
What?
You're right. That would be a bad title to have.
Reaper?
I still want the Avatar.
The Reaper wasn't even one of them.
Raphasalia?
There. Yeah,
Reaper?
the Raphasalia Reaper.
Reflesia.
Nobody fucking cares.
Flesia.
It wasn't a good reward. It was
No.
never a good reward. And especially of the cosmetic things that you could reward people with, simply a title, that's pretty sad. That's pretty bad. I mean, that's just not...
Give me a custom title
no,
and we'll talk.
You know what would be awesome? If the title was in a different color.
So it stands out.
Yeah.
Maybe...
Are you kidding me? You're walking around and you're like, oh yeah, da da da, and then you just see some asshole with a red title walking around. You're like, what the fuck? I didn't set my UI to have red titles.
I mean, I guess, but I don't know.
Oh baby. I'm getting hard thinking
No,
about it.
we
Would
need to
would
listen
you
to
do
Juxta, the
extreme
Glamour
rating?
Master, on this.
Yeah, Square Enix, don't pay attention to anything that Juxtaposition just said, because you'll actually do it, and we don't want that.
Actually, you know what? Just put that in the cash out.
Oh God, they would.
So let's talk about the dungeons, because I think that